Is justice really blind? Or do we live in a two-tier justice system that judges its citizens based on their gender rather than the crime they have committed? What is the penalty for a teacher who has sex with a student? In America, most schools have eliminated their sexual education courses as being too obtrusive into the lives of students. These classes were meant to prepare students for the eventuality of having sex, but there was no eventuality for them having sex with their own teachers. Tonight, on Predator 101, we discuss a justice system based upon gender. We hire teachers to mold our children's minds and to keep the relationship with them above the belt and purely platonic. Most teachers can't find the time between creating a winning lesson plan and grading homework, but some find the time to have sex with their students. Case in point, Mrs. Kandice Barber, a school teacher aged 35 years old, for having sex with a 15-year-old student. Although it took over 2 trials to bring her to justice, Ms. Barber is scheduled to be sentenced on February the 15th of this year. She is facing a 5-year sentence. We'll keep you informed. From the Soviet Union to the United States of America to the smallest hamlet in New England, welcome to Predator 101. You would think that a case of a teacher having sex with a student is a cut and dry prison sentence, if not for the position of a teacher, but for the age of the student. But life is not so cut and dry as we have been led to believe. In a society screaming at every end for fairness and a leveling of the playing field, there seems to be no limit to the inequality of sentencing in just about any country on the globe, as far as men are concerned. It seems as if men are forced to lose any positive footing they have while expected to bear the pain of negativity and consequences for their actions. Many viewers of this channel often question me as to why it is that when a male teacher has sex with a student, it is deemed as rape. But when a female teacher does the same, it is called a sexual affair or the like. The answer to that is simple. As a society, we are operating off of laws that are in most cases several hundred years old. Laws that were made at a time that either women did not often do such things or no one wanted to think about them doing such things. I give you now the dated laws governing rape in the country of England about today's story. In England, which are pretty much the same everywhere with the exception of more progressive rule makers these days. Now, you will notice that nowhere in this law does it say that a woman can even be a rapist. It insists that in all cases men are rapists. The law states the following. Rape is an offense under the common law of England and is classified therefore as a felony. The common law defined rape as the carnal knowledge of a woman forcibly and against her will. The common law defined carnal knowledge as the penetration of the female sex organ by the male sex organ. It covered all other acts under the crime of sodomy. The crime of rape was unique in the respect that it focused on the victim's state of mind and actions in addition to that of the defendant. The victim was required to prove a continued state of physical resistance, and consent was conclusively presumed when a man had intercourse with his wife. So the rape laws never did apply to marriage. Now, one of the most oft-quoted passages in our jurisprudence on the subject of rape is by Lord Chief Justice Sir Matthew Hale from the 17th century. And he says, rape is an accusation easily to be made and hard to be proved, and harder to be defended by the party accused, though never so innocent. Lord Hale is often the origin of the remark, in a rape case, it is the victim, not the defendant, who is on trial. And in this case, the student is on trial. However, as noted by Sir William Blackstone in the Commentaries of the Law of England, by 1769, the common law had recognized that even a prostitute could suffer rape if she had not consented to the act. Now, the teacher we are speaking of in question today is Mrs. Kandice Barber. Mrs. Kandice Barber, a married woman of 35 years and a teacher's assistant at the Wendover, England school, who had sex with her 15-year-old student, who was not only under the consensual age of sex, but immature in carrying out that act without there even being coercion on a superior's age adult's part. So she had to initiate it. In effect, this law falls under the description of rape through coercion, which the teacher did. But because she was a woman, she went through 2 trials before being convicted. Her initial trial concerning her having sex with her student only yielded the charge of sending him topless photos of herself instead of actually having sex with her student. But the jury was unable to reach verdicts on 3 more serious charges of causing or inciting a child age under 16 to engage in a sexual act. But they found she had sent her then 15-year-old accuser topless photographs of herself as well as videos of herself masturbating. Now, a retrial had been scheduled for the 18th of January. The teacher initially said she had good intentions when she gave her number to the teenager, despite staff Princess Risborough School in Buckinghamshire being banned from contacting pupils outside of school without the head principal's permission. So the school ordinance said you can't even concentrate to call a child after the school was out, but she did it anyway. Prosecutor Richard Milne said Barber had approached a boy at a sports presentation in September of 2018 and took his phone from him, and then, just like a girlfriend, she added herself to his Snapchat account before giving the phone back to him. So she wanted to be part of his life. In his evidence to juries, the boy student said the teacher, Barber, messaged him after school in October 2018 to say she was dropping off her son and wanted to meet him before she picked him up in her car. At that time, the teacher then drove away quite a distance to a secluded field at that time. Now, Miss Kandice Barber, over twice the age of the student, was found to have taken the underage boy to that field, kissed him on the neck next to a bale of hay, and whispered, "What do you want to do now?" before having full intercourse with him in that field. Now, the student at the time said he did not tell the school because the female teacher told him that she was pregnant with his child. Now, this actually turned out to be a ruse, a lie if you will. Nothing more than a manipulating tool to keep him from coming forward in order not to face shame. She knew full well that this boy at his age would be terrified of taking care of a baby while he was still a child himself. But when his teacher realized that the school was catching up to her and catching on to her dalliances with the student, she sought to protect herself by telling the student to delete everything and to block her number from his telephone. The court heard the boy had initially lied to his head teacher in January last year about the relationship and that Barber had allegedly told him she could be pregnant with his child. Now, she said he should deny everything and should delete all messages, right? Now, in a video interview shown to jurors at the time, the boy said it had been awkward seeing the teacher assistant in school afterwards. It was awkward to see her. He didn't want to. He said, "I began to panic and I didn't know what to do in that situation. I didn't know what was going on," he said. Now I ask you, does this sound like a boy who's enjoying it? Does this sound like the behavior of a grown man if he had sex with a woman of the same age? He alleged that she called him in tears after learning she had had a miscarriage. Mr. Milne said that Barber told the boy she would bring him down with her if he snitched by making false allegations of rape. Now, isn't it ironic that a woman would willingly rape a young boy and then hide behind the very law that should be protecting him instead of her? Now, I can understand a double-standard society never acknowledging a grown man as being raped by a woman. But if you just have a penis, does that make you a rapist? If it does, then no male is safe, from infancy to adulthood, from a liar who will perpetrate this crime against them. It was also alleged that Mrs. Barber, his teacher, threatened the schoolboy after having sex with him in that field. Now, This would turn out to be just a few steps in protecting herself and distancing herself from him. When she moved forward to protect herself in court, she would use the defense that she could not have sex with the boy because she was too short for the sexual act he had described. Not that it didn't happen. Now, this was done with her back to him, she said. He bending her forward, he pulled down her leggings and lifted her red coat. Now, Prosecutor Milner said, but on Tuesday, Barber's defense lawyer, Nadia Chabot, said such an act could not physically have occurred, she said. Imagine. She questioned the boy. She said, you told the police that you were standing behind her. You had pulled her clothes down, she said. You accept she is quite tiny, only about 5 feet, isn't she? So you were taller than her at the time, weren't you? You didn't even think she could reach your shoulders at the time, would she? Chabot also called into question the circumstances of the second alleged tryst between the pair, which supposedly occurred while they were parked at the side of a busy main road. Now, in that instance, the boy is alleged to have performed a sex act on Barber while they were parked before the pair went to a nearby woodland where he lay on the ground and she gave him oral sex. So the prosecutor is protecting him, but the defense attorney is trying to tear him apart. Chabot said that also did not make sense. She said, let us understand you. Then get out of the car and walk to a little wooded area that is where she, you say, performed oral sex on you. Chabot said. Now, she said, why would you get out of the car at all? She is on top of you and you are performing a sexual act in the car. What was the need to get out of the car, she asked. Now, presumably it would have been just a matter of her body being moved down further on your trousers area, she said. Insane to torture somebody who has been raped, like the child. Now, Tuesday's evidence followed Monday's bombshell claim that Barber had threatened to bring down with her in their alleged affair became public knowledge. The husband of the teacher, found guilty of having outdoor sex with her 15-year-old pupil today, posted a tribute that said, I love you with all my heart. Be brave, as she faces up to 5 years in jail, which is where she belongs. Her husband, Daniel Barber, posted a photograph of a loving note placed on a Superman t-shirt, along with a caption saying, always, with kissing emojis and love hearts. He was seen by her side carrying her overnight bag as they walked to court that particular morning, sending her down to the jail. Now, the misrecorder Baldwin said, I'm making a decision that I do. I am accurately and acutely aware that you are the mother of 3 young children, and I am also aware of the effect that it would have on your children with regards to any deprivation of your liberty by taking you out of the home, she said, is going to affect your children. She says you were given an extra night on bail last night, following your conviction for extremely serious offenses. She says, I trust and I hope that extra night on bail gave you an opportunity to explain to your children what is to come and to prepare them and to bid farewell for the time being. Now, a lengthy custodial sentence is likely to follow, and to ensure that you do not fail to surrender your sentence, she says, I am now going to revoke your bail and I am going to remand you into custody pending your sentence. So Barber covered her face as she arrived at the court in hand with Daniel, 38, as he carried her large overnight bag, as you can see in this picture. Now, the teacher was found guilty of having sex with the boy in a field and sending him sordid, topless pictures of Snapchat. The mother of 3 will stay behind bars until a sentencing hearing on February the 15th of this year, where she faces up to 5 years in prison. Gavin Holm defended, begged the judge to allow her to return home ahead of sentencing as an act of humanity so she could homeschool her children. But if that was so, she should have done that a long time ago. Now, Barber was warned custody is inevitable after being convicted by a jury of causing or inciting a child to engage in sexual activity. Her husband, Daniel, fumed, "It's a joke," as the verdict was read out. Barber was cleared of 2 other counts of causing and inciting a child to engage in sexual activity. She was previously convicted of sexual communication with a child and causing a child to watch a sexual act by a person in a position of trust. Jurist heard how the teacher began messaging the pupil way back in 2018 after taking his phone number, remember, at the school. It was a sporting day event where prizes were given. but not the prize of sex. Now, their text soon turned sexual, and Barber later picked him up in her 4x4 car before driving to that field. The teacher continued to send the boy sordid text messages even while teaching him in class. One message read, "You cannot make me blush when I'm teaching you now. Keep a poker face." Now, a schoolboy also claimed that he saw messages from Barber asking, "Do you prefer boobs or butt?" The boy also showed a pile of shower selfies showing Barber's face and a picture of the supply teacher bending over her bed. She also encouraged him to delete messages she had sent, although the pupil kept photographs of some of the more explicit text. Now, the next time she probably tries, "Don't bother little boys." That's what they do. So during the trial, the court heard Barber kept a secret stash of sexy snaps on her phone in a file called "For My Eyes Only," which were actually for the boy. Barber was eventually arrested in March last year, 4 months after the headmaster saw an X-rated picture of her sweeping through the school. Her husband, Daniel, defended his wife to the end in court, telling jurors that marriage is as strong as ever. But ultimately, justice prevailed in the third trial, and Kandice Barber was locked up for having sex with a 15-year-old pupil. The 35-year-old blew her husband Daniel a kiss as he was remanded in custody at the bail hearing at the Crown Court. She is the one who is inside of that van that you see in this picture as leaving the court. He is the one that you see leaving the courthouse alone. So when she's sentenced in the month of February, she'll find out whether she faces 5 years in prison or 5 days in prison. It's up to a gender in a courtroom and a justice system based upon gender. Now, before I leave, the husband said that his marriage was stronger than ever before. That's pretty odd because one of the things she told that 15-year-old student when she was having sex with him was that his penis was bigger than her own husband's. For Predator 101, this is Charles Rivers. Join us again next week when we bring you one of these another insane stories. Tell us what you think. Give this video a thumbs up and watch out. We'll see you next week.